Welcome to The Favorites, the podcast presented by Bet365. We are part of the Volume Podcast Network, live from our Tommy John home studios. I am Chad Millman of the Action Network. It is our Sunday night episode. We're going to review for one last time this football season, the 5 picks we put into the contest. They are reflective of our entire season so far. We're going to dissect a little bit about why we left some games out, but that is not the main event. The main event is we're going to preview the early lines we already like for wildcard playoffs. Some of them are moving already across key numbers. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my companion, my compadre, my BFF professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon!
Hello, Chad. What a day, brother.
Took 18 weeks, man. Prior to today, we had 17 weeks of dogs shitting the bed, of favorites playing perfectly, of living through the exact opposite of everything we had relied upon as bettors for years. And then today, the dogs, they finally started barking. The Bears covered. The Cowboys covered. The Jags covered. The Saints covered. The Patriots covered. The Panthers covered. Even the Texans as dogs against the Tennessee Titans covered. Of course, the Giants did not cover. Somehow, the Giants ended up in our final 5, even though, every other game looked more attractive because the Giants were already playing all their backups and their third stringers. So it didn't matter who they were playing. I don't know how we ended up with that. We did have the Panthers, which is great because we've been banking on them for weeks. We had the Jags. We had the Chiefs. That was a bit of a bummer, but everyone seemed to like them, so they all took a hit. We're 2-2 on the day with the Vikings, plus 3.5 tonight. Let's break it down. More importantly, we're going to talk about what we are seeing for any of the early playoff lines. We got 4 lines posted for the 4 games that we know are set. Obviously, we're waiting on 2 NFC matchups tonight based on the Vikings and the Lions results. Catch every episode of The Favorites live on YouTube. For those on YouTube, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. As a reminder, The Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365, and now new Bet365 customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code Favorites, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Let's start with some housekeeping. People want to know performance, how we did during the year. It was not pretty all the time. Foxhole started out 0-6, ended 8-8-2. Simon says 9-8-1. Executive decision 5-13. Big Balls Bet of the Week, presented by Tommy John. Started 4-0, ended 8-10. That's what happens when you're constantly betting home underdogs. We'll give out the final record from the contest at the end of the show. It's not going to be good. New York Giants plus 2.5 at Philly. How do we end up with the Giants? Of all the dogs that had things locked up or needed to win to stay, the Giants were the only ones who were never in it.
They were down 4. They had a chance at the end there, and they obviously punted the ball back to the Eagles. I don't think they ever got the ball back. But yeah, bet a bad number was a bad bet. We basically bet on a team that, should have realized they came off their Super Bowl. And yeah, our quarterback Drew Lock in that first half did nothing. Basically put up a goose egg. And Tanner McKee, he didn't even play that great, but he played well enough to get them to 17 points, which I guess they won. They got 20 at the end there, but yeah, Eagles, like you just said, Eagles playing their backups. The Giants have been playing their backups for weeks. Looked like the Giants were the team that was rusty. So yeah, that was a bad one. And obviously it's even more brutal, and that's the only dog that doesn't cover the early slate. So it stinks. We had a lot of dogs we liked this week. Ended up on a bad one at a bad number. Did not come through.
Bad, very bad. All bad all the way around. Because we talked about the Bears, we talked about the freaking Saints, like the number of parlays we had on the money line and on these underdogs to cover. The Giants were barely in any any of these things for me. Um, but whatever. At least it's over. Malik Neighbors did set a Giants record for most receptions in a season. And the announcers were making such a big deal about this because really it's their job. And what else are you going to do? Can you think of a Giants receiver in history that's actually worth fawning over other than Odell, who was not historically great
Oh
or
my
even
God.
great for longevity? Can you think of one?
Plaxico, man. Come on.
Dude, come on. I'm thinking historically great. Like the way and this, by the way,
Tumor?
no, the answer to my next question will prove my point because they were making such a big deal. Malik Neighbors, franchise record for most receptions in a season. That's a big deal. Oh my God. It's so amazing. The Giants, such a historic franchise. I could not think of anybody who is worthy as a great receiver, a Hall of Fame caliber receiver for the New York Football Giants. And then, because I'm like, why? Who cares? Like, it's the freaking Giants, right? Then they gave the answer to who set the record. Do you know who it was?
Who had the Giants record or the NFL?
Giants record for most receptions in a season.
Mm, that's shocking. It's not Odell. Who is
Steve
it?
Steve Smith, and not
Oh,
the
yeah.
Steve Smith you're thinking of, the
No.
one who's finalist for the
He
Hall of
was on the
Fame.
Eagles, Steve Smith.
Steve Smith, I think he went to like USC or something.
Yeah.
Was it early 2000s?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's the guy who set the record. So that says all you need to know about how much this team needs a reset.
I don't know. I'd be excited. Like they got their receiver. Now they just need an offensive line and a quarterback.
Yeah.
Good luck, Giants.
Ask the Bears how that's going. You just need an offensive line. You just need a quarterback. You got your receivers. You're fine on the edges. You just need those two things. Easier said than done. Jacksonville at Indy. We had Jacksonville plus 3.5. Um, you know how the people who run the media, all the NFL executives who decide when they're really going to what games on Red Zone, how little they think of Jacksonville and Indy, even though it was a riveting game. Because in the first half, despite multiple lead changes and a field goal less than 40 seconds in the half, I think out of Red Zone, I saw maybe 3 plays from this game. They would just go to it like when after the fact. They weren't going to it in real time. They'd show you the highlight. But this was a great game. Played exactly the way we thought it would.
Yeah, it was definitely a corner TV at the sports book. There was me and a couple other guys all huddled around it. I mean, the funniest thing was that next to that TV in the corner was that Buck Saints game. I think after maybe the first quarter, they moved it to the main TV. It was like, okay, this, because people are going wild about, Survivor contests and everything like that. I mean, it really was a really fun day at the book. Sweating out Survivor contests, people like us who are betting dogs, like there's a lot of dog love in the building today. And yeah, it was pretty surreal coming down the wire for a lot of those games. So yeah, I get what you're saying though. Definitely was not, they went to overtime. And I think maybe 5 of us knew that because even Red Zone didn't cut into it in overtime. And I thank God I didn't text you. I was going to text you, but basically they go to overtime and the Colts get the ball first. And I just in my mind was like, oh my God, here me and Chad go again. And another game we did today went to overtime. So at the same time, I was just like, oh my God, deja vu, 2 dogs going overtime. But yeah, like we're hoping, Chad. It looks like it's the year of the dog because they've got a big 4th down stop, that Jags team, and got the field goal in overtime. But Mac Jones, man, like it was crazy how he kept getting us back from the dead. We kept needing touchdowns from him. He kept doing it. Got that field goal at the end to go to overtime, and on 4th and 22. threw a nice middle of the field 15-yard pass just to end the game, put us out of
Yeah.
our misery. No pick six,
Nope.
no strip sack, no passing behind. So felt good, bet a good number. I had a ton of money on 4.5, a bunch of money on 4, obviously some money on the 3.5, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose all these numbers. And it was nice that it kind of felt like the game went as it should. The Colts just don't cover against the Jaguars. It's bizarre, but we love those type of trends, and I'm happy it came through for us and the fans.
Here's a theory. So ever since Mac Jones started playing, this team has played with more fire, more passion. They were scrappier, more energized, seemed to be having so much more fun than when Trevor Lawrence was playing, right? And you think back to Doug Peterson when he was the Eagles coach. When did he have his greatest success? The the 6, 7, 8 week run after the superstar MVP caliber quarterback Carson Wentz went out, and he had Nick Foles, backup quarterback. Everyone's rallying around the guy. Is it possible that Doug Peterson is a better, scrappy, not as talented quarterback coach than he is a uber talented quarterback head coach?
No, what helped him is he got to play Tennessee 2 out of the last 5 weeks. So he got 2 wins there. And obviously, me and you joked about it, that Colts team is just atrocious. Like
Yeah.
Brian Thompson Jr. is just such it's crazy different levels you guys are at. He's at such a different level than anyone that could even defend him on the Colts team. So yeah, Mac Jones, he knew the assignment. Just throw it down to Brian Thompson Jr. He'll get it. And yeah, he saved our ass today because I'm not going to lie. They drove the field that opening possession, scored a touchdown the Colts. And I was like, well, we basically need Mac to answer. And he did. And,
did.
we didn't even talk about yet that Panthers game, but there's a lot of things happen in the 2-minute warning in both these games. And in this game, I think they're down 7 at halftime because, they kicked the ball back.
Yeah, it's 2013.
Flacco able to drive the field and get a field goal. So tough when you're always behind it, but it's like we always say, like we trusted the number, trusted the spot, and yeah, it's nice when it comes through. The number literally landed exactly what we thought it should be. You said the number should be 3. It was 3.5. We took the value and it came through.
The announcers on the Texans-Titans games said something interesting. They talked about Davis Mills and him trying to perform so well for the Texans. And Davis Mills said to them, he's like, look, these games might not mean anything, but to someone like me, it's extra time in the league as a backup quarterback if I play well.
Yeah, Carson Wentz said the same thing.
What's that?
I said Carson Wentz said the same thing.
Did he? Well, he might have cut his time in half. Mac Jones, I feel like, gave himself another 5 years in the league with his performances in the past 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, by the way, had 177 yards rushing. In his last 4 games of the year, he averaged 156 yards rushing per game. Pretty amazing. Yeah. Quietly dominated at the end of the year. All the talk about Derrick Henry and Saquon and even Bijan, who had 170 yards rushing today. We're going to get to that game. Jonathan Taylor, nice job. And by the way, even with all the touchdown, drama, still had 5 touchdowns in those 4 games.
I mean, Cooks I want to give Cooks love for the Bills as well. I think he had 16 touchdowns, Matt 16? Mitchell. I think he set the Bills record. Pretty insane year for running backs. Really was.
Really incredible year. Like really, and Kyron Williams, who didn't even play.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Carolina at Atlanta. So we had Carolina plus 8.5. Game of the day, bet of the day, team of the day. You mentioned you were at the sports book. My younger son plays rec league basketball. It's like, it's just him and his buddies fucking around, but it's like an organized league. And the games are really fun because he's playing with all his buddies that, we've known in various stages throughout school. And obviously he's going to go to college next year because he's a senior in high school. So my wife and I want to go to these games because it's fun to see all these kids that, goofing around and it's, hanging out and, acting like idiots together. But of course, like it's happening from 3:30 to 4:30. So I bring my phone to the game and I'm watching the end of the game and I've got my notebook out and one of the kids is like, what are you doing? Are you scouting? Like He thought I was taking notes on, on the other team. I'm like, I'm working, asshole. And this game was going back and forth on my little tiny screen. And like, I'm going to say it right now. I think we're fucked next year. Because we talked so much about the Panthers heading into the season. They became the team we thought they would be. But it wasn't until midway through the season, after everyone had stopped listening to us or just thought we were idiots. So now we're going to start next year talking about the Panthers again because we love this team. We love this team. Even Dave Canales said, we got our guy. He finally admitted it after Bryce Young's game today. He was awesome.
Yeah, I think for the most part, though, people jumped on board. I would say I went from getting, I don't know, 50 death threat hate eat DMs and Twitter replies about them to some nice things said to us about us, like knowing when to jump back in, about how much they love and enjoy betting this Panthers team and how they were going to ride with us one last time today. And yeah, they, you know, they're a savior in the money line parlay, right? They came through big time. And that was another game, though, made me sick to my stomach, right? We're dominating in the first half, and they basically gave up 14 points in a minute 50 seconds or a minute 45 seconds. It was like, this is why people hate betting this team. It's like you do everything right. Bryce Young plays so well, and your defense just totally lays an egg and rolls over in the final 2 minutes. They just done it consistently this season. Like they just are so bad in the 2-minute drill. But Bryce Young, man, what a game. You know, the throws he makes, even today running the ball, like he just looks so confident, comfortable in this game. And it's like that was probably the most fun part about watching it.
The past 5, 6 weeks, he has smiled. He's confident. He's making just baller throws, really amazing throws down the seams, on the sidelines, so accurate, finding guys in the end zone. How about that play? I can't remember if it was in the first half or the second half, where he threw the ball and before the guy had caught it, he did what Lamar did yesterday, turned around, had his back to the play and had his arms in the air, signaling touchdown. Like the guy's just loving playing right now. So here's my question for you. The Falcons come close to winning the division, only had a few games with Michael Penix, who I would say was good-ish. Like, I think people can be fooled into believing he was better than he was because his arm is so good and he can just whip the ball. But he also was incredibly inaccurate.
Yeah.
And didn't make great decisions all the time. Obviously only had a few games. Meanwhile, the Panthers finished 5-12. Which one of these teams do you think has more optimism about next year?
Probably still Atlanta because they have a lot of the pieces in place where I agree. I'm excited for the Panthers. Like, I think they know what they need to do, right? Just spend all their money on the defensive side. Like the offense, when healthy, like Chuba Hubbard will be back. You know, I don't know what the deal is with the rookie they drafted this year. He kept getting injured, and I think he got re-injured this season when he came back. You know, they have a lot to build around.
You're talking about the Xavier Legette, the receiver?
No, that's the wide receiver. They drafted a running back.
Right, that kid from Texas, Jonathan. I forgot his name, but yeah,
stud. Like probably the best running back. Brooks. There we go. Thank you.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but I told you their biggest issue is that there was no secret that during this stretch, you know, these last 8 games, Phelan was the best receiver.
Yes.
Like there's no doubt about it. And that is a problem when your best receiver is a dude who we think he'll be back next year. He should come back, but it's not great. You don't want to be in a position where you have a guy in his mid-30s as your best receiver. But yeah, the Atlanta thing, you know, not that we knew they were going to lose here, but I talked about the numbers on Penix when you really dived into it and broke it down. He does look good on film. When you break it down and look at the numbers, there are things he struggles with. Like he's not that accurate of a quarterback as people think. And we kind of saw in this game, right? He was a little inconsistent. Even though he put up a ton of points, he had basically, I mean, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4 every time he had the ball. Like Robinson dominated that game like we thought he would.
170 yards. It's like, I think the Panthers gave up 200 yards rushing the final 6 weeks of the year.
So, yeah, I'm just so excited for the Panthers where they really made us look like straight idiot fools for 9 weeks, 10 weeks there. And then you kind of saw now what we saw coming into the season, which is like this team had a ton of potential, a ton of upside, and just a huge drive for them. Like we talk about all the time, like these bad teams, you win this type of game, just like years ago with Detroit Lions in this exact scenario. You win this type of game, it sets a tone for the upcoming season and the motivation for guys. Because like we figured all the time how human this is. Like again, we talk about the hangover of the Super Bowl. I saw a great quote by Deebo Samuel where he loses the Super Bowl. He couldn't leave his house. He said he was so depressed for a month. And then it was like, holy shit, we got OTAs. Like that's how quick the season comes on you, where it's like, he said he couldn't get it. He still wasn't out of the funk even coming to this year. He said he just could not get out of that Super Bowl funk. So setting the tone for the upcoming season, it's the ultimate high vibes. And there's no doubt me and you are going to be sucked back into this Panthers team. I'm just so happy and excited about this team's future.
Oh my God, we're so screwed. Like we are going to be betting so many, like it's going to be so terrible. You're not wrong about the Super Bowl. So I had lunch on Friday with friend of the pod, Seth Wickersham, and I did pitch him on the Sean McVay and Baker Mayfield idea that I said I wanted to pitch him on. Totally liked it. Then he tried to piss in it. Like the old joke is an editor walks up to an oasis in the desert with a writer, and the writer's like, oh my God, it's perfect. And the editor jokes, oh wait, I can make it better. And then he starts to piss in it. And I gave Seth this brilliant idea. He's like, oh my God, I love this idea. And then he starts coming up with these other things. I'm like, guy, what's the matter with you? I'm giving you a gift. And yet he still tried to make it something that it wasn't. We were talking about the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Niners and how people forget that block kick, right? And like the Niners were so close. Kyle Shanahan was out coaching Andy Reid and beating Patrick Mahomes. And like one block kick leads to one drive, leads to a game tying field goal. It's like I understand it. I do. The Panthers are going to be in that spot one day. I guess.
I'd love
it. Kansas City plus 10.5 at Denver. Look, we loved it. Everybody loved it.
Mm.
And Carson Wentz couldn't stay on the field. The Chiefs D couldn't get off the field. First quarter and a half, the Chiefs had 6 plays. The Broncos had 3 touchdowns. Bo Nix was 18 for 18 with nearly 200 yards and 3 touchdowns before he had an incompletion. Like, it was dead from the start. Congrats to you, by the way, because I'm convinced me you gave away the under 40.5, and it played out. The Chiefs did exactly what you said they were going to do. Run the ball, burn the clock. It just so happened the Broncos tried to score every time they had the ball, except like the last 7 minutes of the game.
And that's why I love veteran coaches, though. Andy Reid was just so brutally honest. He's like, if they would allow me to play with a running clock in this game, I would play with a running clock. And I didn't honestly think the Chiefs would just no-show like they did, but I do think it was the Bo Nix effect where, we talked about coming to this game, Bo Nix had been struggling down the stretch here, and we're seeing here that in that first half, Bo Nix, like you just said, he was 18 of 19, 282 yards, 3 touchdowns, 153 passer rating. Like, what are we going to do, Chad? So that was dead from the start. Like you said, Carson Wentz, I think he went 3 and out on 3 straight drives. On the flip side, Bo Nix scored 3 straight touchdowns, and terrible bet. A day where a bunch of the 10-point dogs came through our big dog. Once again, we just can't hit the mark, man. It's
all season long. That's what it's been like.
Yeah.
Like the fact that the Saints covered, the Patriots covered, the Bears covered.
We knew that on the Chiefs, like when Evan told us they were the most bet.
Yeah, I know. When I saw that this morning,
yeah,
I'm like,
I know. But I was already made my bet. I kind of had to lay in it. Like I honestly couldn't get out of it. So that was definitely one that hurt. Where it's like, man, we saw the signs telling us to get out, and we pushed ahead. Where, yeah, the biggest regret definitely of the day is not having the Bears or the Cowboys. Where we both love those. The Cowboys one scared me off though because of Trey Lance, but the Bears one just hurt because it was like, That was the dream. We just knew how due they were. We talked about it. I let the trend scare me off. But yeah, to me, like again, we didn't have in the contest, but that was my favorite game of the day. That Bears game. It had everything, the highs and the lows. Why I love betting. Of like I won and died that money line 1,000 times on the Bears, and they were the chaos team of the year. I mean, we joked that Hail Mary. Would they have 4 wins going to that Hail Mary
Yeah,
or
yeah.
5 wins?
No, they stopped winning after that.
Right. That's what I mean. So that was their first win since that Hail Mary. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's just crazy how a little play like that can determine a whole team season.
11 in a row. And I was watching this game again, at the West Hartford Rec League basketball game. And everybody's saying to me, like, you can't just watch the kids. You got to watch the game. I'm like, I'm working. I am actually working. And I watched the Bears. They like managed the clock. They spiked the ball. They got the field goal. They ran around like they had won the Super Bowl or the West Hartford Rec League Championship, acting like they had never won before because they really haven't. And now the good news is the Bears are going to interview Thomas Brown, the current interim head coach, to be their new head coach. Super excited about that. This is all going to go great. Bears won in honor of Virginia Hallis McCaskey, who turned 102 today. Can you believe that? The NFL is 105 years old. She's been around for 102 of those years.
I mean, it's good to be rich.
I wonder how liquid they are, though. They're not like Josh Harris, like the Harris Blitzer capital rich. They're like, football rich. I don't think they can pull a lot out of that yet.
I don't know. I feel like this whole country's built on people buying things they don't have money for. It's just loaning money out to the assets they already own. So I'm sure they're doing all right.
Yeah, I'm not going to cry for them. My favorite incentives from today. Geno Smith got $6 million in incentives. We talked about it the other day. $4 million for getting more than 185 passing yards in the game. That got him over the season total he needed to get for a $2 million incentive. Finished the season above 70% completion percentage. Got a $2 million incentive for that. Got the Seahawks to 10 wins. Got a $2 million incentive for that. Mike Evans got his incentive for 1,000 yards. He went crazy on the last play of the game. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was great.
What I've loved with this is how unabashedly aware the players are of their incentives and how excited their teammates are for them. But then also how the announcers are just like, Von Miller just got 1.5 million for that sack. Calais Campbell just got 300,000 for that sack. Jim Nantz was so excited when Cortland Sutton got his 89th catch. He's like, he just got $500,000 for that catch. Like, it was insane how excited people were.
Yeah, the Von Miller one might have been my favorite. He literally just one-handed push Drake May, and then he just knew right away that counts as a sack. It was just a very veteran, awesome moment for Von Miller getting his money.
All right, our final record in the contest. We are nothing if not accountable, people. Don't ever say we're not. We talk about our records every single week. We have Minnesota 3.5 in the contest, 39-50 on the year across 17 completed weeks. Finished 5 weeks with a winning record. Just terrible.
It's not as bad as I thought, though.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, I was expecting the worst, brother. We've been terrible this year.
Yeah, I mean, these favorites have just crushed us. Absolutely crushed us.
It's our first losing season. It hurts, but we'll bounce back next year. Don't lose faith, people.
Well, the big question is going to be, do we overcompensate? Is this year in our head? Are we betting road favorites? Are we afraid to bet the dogs?
No,
how much do we think like the 30-yard line start or
we bet 5 dogs
variant?
today, Chad? We have not changed at all.
That's true. It's so true.
What are you even talking about?
All right, wild card lines. The one NFC line that we have so far: Green Bay plus 3.5 at Philly. Your first instinct?
I mean, they're basically begging you to take Green Bay, and I'm going to throw a quick penny on the Eagles right there. It was 3. The lines moved basically off of a couple key injuries, right? Jordan Love got hurt. Watson got hurt. I think another receiver of theirs might have got hurt in this game. We already talked about Jair Alexander missing this game. He's done for the season pretty much. So,
yep.
They're missing their deep threat wide receiver, their number one cornerback, and their quarterback's banged up. Like, this number is going to keep going up. If the news comes out it's anything worse, then they might be playing a backup, which I honestly don't hate for Green Bay if they're stuck in that position, because I think me and you both agree where Jordan Love's just been shaky. Even that game before he got hurt, he did not look comfortable. Like, he never got into a rhythm
No.
against that Bears team. And Eagles, as much as people want to bash them about some of their weaker competition, they still are the number one pass defense this season. So it's like, if Green Bay wants to lean into them just running the ball, that would be nice for them. But to me, yeah, I can already tell you this number is going to be too low. Like, I honestly thought this would open at 4. I was excited to tell us to bet the Eagles at 3. Still happy to take the 3.5. I can just see this going up, especially if the injury news does come out. This is going to get up to what, 6 or 7, Chad?
Yeah, my first instinct on this was we're betting the Eagles. Like, I keep thinking about this defense. It's so good. And in the latter half of the year, it's been so dominant. And I keep thinking about their defensive tackles and the strength of the Packers, whether it's Jordan Love or anyone else, is going to be Josh Jacobs running up the middle. That's how they win the game, right? They lean into him early. They try to establish line of scrimmage. They try to get some touchdowns early in the game based on him. As soon as they go away from him, they start to struggle. We've seen that every single time. And I don't even know if they'll be able to take advantage of him as much as they have in the past, because that defensive line for the Eagles is so freaking good.
Yeah, I think you're right. Where like the Eagles are going to stack the box. Like the burner, they've lost their burner now. Like the guy on the outside that kind of can threaten you. I know Watson hasn't had a great season because he's just been injured all the time. But he tried to fight through the injury, come back today, and I think he got carted out of the stadium. Like, that's how bad whatever happened to him. So unlucky for the Packers. But again, they're the 7 seed, so it's like this is a very respectable line for a 7 seed. I think at this exact point last year against Dallas, I think we got them at an 8-point dog, right? Didn't we get so? The books are giving the respect to Green Bay right now on this opening line. I think it's too much respect. They're getting good value. And my favorite meme, you'll enjoy this, Chad. Guess who's also 1-5 in the division other than the Green Bay Packers? Chicago Bears. So you guys have the same divisional record this season as the Green Bay Packers.
It's not even a rivalry. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Denver Broncos, speaking of a 7 seed and a 2 seed and an 8-point line, Broncos are 8.5 on the road at Buffalo. Give me Buffalo.
Yeah, and this is interesting though. Certain books have this 8.5. A couple of books already have this at 7.5. So it might be early professional money betting this Denver team, but I'm right there with you. I hate it. I mean, we're so chalk to start here, but this feels like 2 different levels of class, and I'm happy for you, Bo Nix. Incredible game today. It felt like they ran just 2 coverages the entire game. The Chiefs, they simply did not try in any sense of the game. And Bo Nix this season has been a road warrior, Chat. So usually we try to do our 4 best bets for Wild Card Weekend. I don't know if this will be one of my 4. Maybe it'll be Chad's on the Bills, but opening line here, -7.5. I got to take that with this Bills team.
By the way, for folks who are watching on YouTube, Simon's having some camera issues, so we apologize. He's just blacking out for a second or two, but it's not affecting audio or rhythm or our ability to talk to each other or our love for each other. By the way, we were 50-40 last season. So a reversal. It happens, Look at the Niners.
The worst year in the history of dogs. What do they want from us? They know what their show is.
I know. Does Matt Mitchell have an opinion on this Bills game as our resident Bills expert? How does he feel about such a huge line against a Sean Payton Bo Nix team? Do you want to?
Chad, I spend almost every playoff season consumed with anxiety about the Buffalo Bills as someone that just needs to see them win 1 Super Bowl so I can put down that heavy load for the rest of my life. However, I never worry about Wild Card Weekend. My life will be ruined when the Bills inevitably lose at some point this playoffs. It won't come in the wild card round. I just don't see that coming. And maybe I'm inviting disaster. I'm like, I don't need to invite disaster. Disaster will find its way to me. I'm just not going to fucking worry about Bo Nix on the road. So I wish them the best of luck.
Pittsburgh Steelers, they cannot move the ball on offense. They have been a train wreck for 4 games in a row. Simon, you had been predicting sort of Russell Wilson's moon balls being shot down to earth. They have been, and this past weekend against the Bengals, George Pickens couldn't catch them. Now they're going to be on the road. 8.5-point underdogs against the Baltimore Ravens. We know all the stats. And again, like we got shows Tuesday, we got shows Thursday, we got a lot to unpack. I'm not going to go into detail on the records, but we know that other than the last time they just played, these games are generally underdogs cover very, very short, very, very small spreads. So this is an anomaly to have this big of a number, and it's entirely based on what we saw on Saturday, I think.
Exactly. We're the only us and professionals and trend bettors are betting the Pittsburgh team. Everyone is going to throw in the Bills with this Ravens team into their money line parlays, into their teasers. It doesn't get much easier. And this is basically every year, chat. And hey, we might get caught here. You know, we did last year in this exact scenario of trying to fade Lamar in round 1. But we know Lamar, it's just different in the playoffs. He gets tighter. And now he's facing this team that historically has been his kryptonite. I mean, people act like he answered the demons in that last matchup, but it's like they're 1-1 on the season against this team. They split. And it's like, this is the defense that knows how to figure out now. You know, we don't know the status of J.J. Watt at this point. That's a big deal.
TJ.
That's a big deal for me and you, right? Like, that guy is a huge deal against Lamar and stopping what he's so special at, which is creating plays on the fly with his legs. So, no rush to bet it. I mean, I'm going to grab it as soon as we get off this call. I'm going to drive into Philly, grab a couple 8.5s where I can, but would be shocked if this keeps going up just because I know professional money is going to come in on Pittsburgh. It's the professional side. This was going to be the easiest bet. As soon as I saw how it was laying out that Pittsburgh was going to lose to Cincy, I was like, oh my God, we're going to get Pittsburgh at the Ravens in round 1, and it's going to be us against everyone else. Like, no one's going to be back in this Pittsburgh team, especially the way they've looked. And I mean, we'll agree, like, they got lucky covering that last game. I mean, it was just incredible how they came back and covered that. But that's life when you're kicking field goals, which is what Cincy did. And I think the same can be said here, Chad. It feels like the type of game where Lamar might be able to move the ball up and down the field, but I think he's going to struggle against this Pittsburgh team in the red zone. And yeah, this is a big one too. We'll wait and see. It's all about the injuries, right? We've seen the difference since this Pittsburgh team has had a couple key injuries to their defense as well, right? Like the secondary, big deal. The defensive line, it's a big deal. So
Very big
again,
deal.
not rushing to make a ton of bets on this one, but I'd be shocked if this is one of our 4.
Well, look, it's a huge deal. Like that secondary, they were getting beat up by the Bengals until T. Higgins went out.
Everybody. I mean, every team
Yeah.
they've played in this stretch here has been attacking that secondary.
Killing them. So I think we need a lot of, you're going to go bet the 8.5, but you still think the number's going to go to 9.5?
I think there's a possibility just because we talked about the injuries. Like if there's no TJ Watt,
Well,
I mean, the books might have to take it to 10 to get some money resistance against this Ravens team. This is the darling of the league right now. I mean, they've been incredible down the stretch here, and you know, that backdoor crazy cover they had against Cleveland, it sets a tone, right? They were sloppy and bad in that game, and they blew them out. I mean, they dominated them in that second half. So it's just the public opinion couldn't be any lower on this Pittsburgh team. I know Evan's gonna have this amazing stats. You're basically in this rare era of a team that's on a 4-game losing streak heading into the playoffs, or maybe it's 5-game losing streak. I think it's 4. Basically, teams in this exact scenario, they tend to cover in the playoffs. Like no one's going to buy on them, so the books are going to give you a big number. They tend to step up when they matter most, especially in the playoffs.
I think one of the biggest problems we had this year is because the favorites kept winning. We definitely, at least I did. I can't speak for you entirely, but I think we definitely let a little bit of recency bias seep into some of our handicapping more than we have in the past. And when I say we, I mean me. I'm not going to speak for you.
Yeah, I had no problem betting favorites. I definitely adjust in the sense of I was not putting as much big money as I normally would on dogs, just because what we talked about. I do think I need more time to dive into the whole kickoff, and teams started at the 30 and how so many teams just went for it on fourth down this season at midfield. Like it was a very unique season that it's something I'm gonna have to adjust and update my model for.
Last game that we have a number for. Chargers 3-point favorites on the road at the Houston Texans. I was thinking about what this line was going to be when I was watching the end of the Raiders Chargers game. Obviously, the last few weeks we've loved the Chargers, and they have not been a team we've been afraid to bet as favorites on the road. I was a little surprised this number opened as big as it did. I just thought it would be closer to pick, to be honest. So all of a sudden, I was like looking forward to betting the Chargers, and I'm less looking forward to it now.
I mean, it's three, and there is a lineup for Tampa, Washington, so we can break that one down. But yeah, this line being -3 to me, that's a Chargers line. Like you said, when it was 3.5, I was like, "Fuck, am I really gonna have to bet Houston here?" But a -3, how do we not take that Chargers number? Like they're the more complete team as we head into this exact spot. Like Houston, they did the smart thing today. They played their starters, which is one of the reasons where it's like. I not that I hated Tennessee today and moving off of it because they were playing their starters for in Houston, but it was more of like, okay, that's a smart decision. I know a lot of people might hate on it, but it's like they have not found a rhythm in weeks, Houston's offense. So that was nice for them to get the opening drive there. But the Chargers, even today, like how they dominated with exactly how we said they would, right? They just wait for you to make a mistake. And this Houston team has made a bunch of mistakes, and defenses know they can just shade to Nico Collins. Just put a guy over top of him, a guy underneath, and, force CJ to beat you in other areas. And he just hasn't done it down the stretch here, especially against good teams. So I'm with you that, obviously in the perfect world, this would have been a pick. I mean, you would be hammering this Chargers line, but I still think there's value on the -3. This number feels right. I don't want to bet Houston, so I'm hoping we can get this in our picks at the end of the week, but I'd be shocked if it stays 3. I could easily see this going up to 3.5, unless there is some respected professional money coming on the other side. I can't see with this Houston team. It felt like they overachieved last year, got lucky to be in a weak division this year, and they're basically running into a team that is pretty legit in this Chargers team.
So I don't see a Tampa Washington line. What do you have?
Sure. Right now, they opened at 3. So when we came on here, I said it to you. I was like, oh my God, you can get Tampa -2.5 right now against Washington. That was a gift. -3 is still a gift to me. Like, you're getting a rookie on the road here at a field goal against a veteran Bucks team that, that was their game from hell today. Everything was going wrong. They found a way. Like, that was, as an Eagles fan, I was praying for them to blow that game. I would much rather face a Penix Atlanta team than this veteran Bucks team. So, another game that was probably one of my favorite wins of the day. Like, it was truly theater in the sportsbook. You had grown men crying about Atlanta losing, and then other grown men crying because they won on their Bucks, and it was just really fun for Survivor Pool. So, yeah, this is a Bucks team that I like this number. I want to fade Washington, and I'm sure the public will come in on Washington because of what the Bucks did today, and people kind of dismissing them. And I totally get Jane Daniels the upside, and we talked about the variance with him on fourth down. They could easily win this game. Like, this is a strong number at +3 if you want to take it. And at 2.5, I'm way more confident on the Buck. At 3, I'm not dying to take it, but that's where I'm at right now. I like them as just like the Chargers. I think they're the better team. They deserve the respect. They're unlike the Chargers. They're at home here. That feels like a really good number at home against a rookie who's on the road in his first playoff start.
Baker is balling. He was not going to lose that game today, and I actually agree with you. To me, this was one of their most impressive wins of the past 2 seasons because they were just getting destroyed. They could have been glassy-eyed and lost confidence on the sideline and been asking themselves, what's happening? Why aren't we winning? Like, starting to blame themselves, losing their composure. That if they had one more series, they probably would have covered that game. Like, they just won it going away in the second half. They stopped making stupid mistakes. Bucky Irving, was running wild, which I think will be an advantage against the Commanders defense. We saw what Rico Dowdle did today. Like, they did not have a problem moving the ball with Trey Lance against Commanders defense that was trying for much of the game. So don't hate it, but we're going to dig in more, a lot more.
Yeah.
A lot more to say. We got to do some research, some fine tuning, got to see how these numbers move, see who's injured, see how the seedings finally play out after the Vikings and Packers game tonight. Reminder, we have the Minnesota Vikings plus 3.5 in the contest. Our last pick of the year. We're going to sweat it out in what might be the best game of the year. The Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365, and now new Bet365 customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code Favorites, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Catch our next episode live on Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern on Action Network's YouTube channel. Download us from Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars, say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until Tuesday. Love you.